what has changed, and what the future will be. So firstly, Tom, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, John, for inviting me to the webinar. It's great to be here. So I'm Tom Higgins, and I'm CEO and founder of Goldeye. We're a tech company. We've been around 18 years, so we've seen lots and lots of different things come and go, and we specialize in integrating all sorts of different platforms from the liquidity risk management side, execution front end platforms all together so that the brokers can have the best of the best in their systems.
Very good. And AB?
Hey, thanks, John, for inviting. Hi, everyone. I'm Abby. I'm the founder and CEO of FinNext. We are a Singapore-based fintech. We provide a modular low-code front office platform. I like to call it the Shopify for capital markets, which allows brokers to have their own onboarding, client portal, CRMs, integrations, and also an AI layer for operations now. So before FinNext, I spent better part of my career, around 2 decades in HSBC and Citi, almost on the other side of the table, buying vendors like us, platforms from vendors like us. So yeah, I've signed checks. Um, my view on obviously broker tech for today is simple. I think the industry has finally passed the debate about whether modular wins. I think it does. It'll be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to have a good chat with both Tom and John.
Thank you. And for those on the call that don't know, so I'm John. I work at DevExperts. DevExperts is a software company. We build trading platforms for brokers and prop firms around the world across multiple asset classes, multiple instrument types. So we kind of see ourselves in the middle, and we have, as many brokers want to have this modular offering, we obviously have lots of integrations, and we have many clients, shared clients using both Goldeye and FinNext. So yeah, I think between the three of us, we should be able to give a good view of how the industry is moving. So firstly, Tom, did you want to explain the different models that brokers are using today?
Yeah, so
Technology together.
yes, absolutely. So there's a number of different components that they've got to have that you sort of have to be a broker at all. So you've got to have a front end trading platform, which is going to be a DX Trade, an NT5, a C-Trader, something like that that they give to their clients that manages all of the funds, all of the trading, and keeps track of everything that's going on, and the charting and stuff like that. So you've got to have that part. They've got to have a CRM system, because otherwise they're never going to be able to keep track of the clients that they're onboarding and all of that side of things. And that's a vital thing that they've got to have in there. Then they've got to have a liquidity part, so it's got to connect them to the liquidity for their A-book or B-book execution, which is substantially more complex than it sounds. Actually, there's a lot more going on under the hood. So those are the sort of really core parts that you're going to have in there. And the bit that we fit into is the liquidity management part. So we have a product called MatrixNet that we've integrated with over 100 different liquidity sources in FX, CFDs, cryptos, DeFi. So Hyperliquid now is a recent one. And looking at prediction markets and things like that. So you have the component that connects all that liquidity together and brings together aggregated pricing. So the broker's choice, really, to answer John's question, is where do I buy those bits from? Do I buy them from separate places where everybody has, different things that they offer? Do I buy it from one standard offering where, I get what they decide that they want to give me? And that's their choice, really.
And AB, what would you say are the pros and cons of taking one vendor that can do everything?
Uh, I think it depends on the maturity of the broker. I don't think one size fits all is an answer that we can give. Depends on where the broker is in terms of their own growth and the scale at which they're either starting or operating at. Brokers who are started, we provide the front office solutions integrated with almost every third party that Tom mentioned in the infrastructure. We provide almost an operating system that allows them to integrate, whether it's PSP, eKYC trading platforms, and we have probably hundreds of PSP providers and eKYC providers as well as trading platforms. But depends on the broker of where in terms of what's their strategy, both in terms of client acquisition, both in terms of growth and also the investment that they have. Some brokers take a turnkey solution from us. That means everything is one-stop shop where they just don't have a tech team, they don't have the budget. They pretty much start everything right from the website to the client portal to the CRM to the trading platform and the liquidity. But depending on as the brokers usually grow, that doesn't scale. Brokers do require different because the strengths of different components, I would say, in the entire ecosystem varies as the broker scale based on geography, based on the volume, based on size. So the brokers will have to make the right choices. I don't think there is one right answer. It just depends on where and which phase of growth the broker is on.
Yeah, I agree. So definitely when you have these all-in-one offerings, they're the fastest to market, but you have a very heavy vendor lock-in. And then right on the other scale of this, you have, building everything yourself in-house, which gives you complete control, but it's very slow to scale and obviously very expensive. And I think, somewhere in the middle where you can have, you can choose various providers and connect it together. And obviously, very important to have APIs that can sit upon this. And then if you want to, then you do have the option to build something yourself to sit on top of that to make it flexible. But bringing this together in one place, today it's easier than ever. Like all of the vendors are all speaking to each other. Most of them have got integrations with each other. When in this market 10 years ago, there was not as much choice as there is today in terms of the CRMs, in terms of the bridge and aggregators, and also in terms of the trading platforms. And I think what your companies do has really enabled that. Having one CRM that can connect to different trading platforms, work in different ways, and also from a trading platform perspective, most brokers are going to want to have multiple trading platforms for different client types, and that would not be possible without the bridge providers and the liquidity hub providers. Tom,
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that came to mind when Abby was talking and you were talking about that is the question of, can I build it and should I build it? Because a lot of people can go and get some development resource from somewhere. They can use vibe coding and AI to build stuff, but should they build it? Because they have very little expertise in the underlying technology to make this work reliably. It's very easy to make something work for 90% of the scenarios, but that's not what you need in a brokerage or a prop firm. You need something that's going to work 100% of the time. So if you ask yourself that question, can I build it? Yeah, but should I build it or should I outsource that? Should I give that to someone for a commodity fee to do it for me who will do it better? And when I want another liquidity provider, I don't have to do anything. I just ask them. We do integrations to new LPs completely for free. So I want this new LP, please connect it up. In the FX world, that happens rarely now because there's not so many new FX LPs. But in the crypto world, in the centralized exchange and the DeFi world, it happens all the time. There's new venues happening all the time, and we are integrating continuously to new venues. So as a if you're using a DXTrade platform and you want access to another liquidity source, you don't have to do anything apart from ask us to integrate with that. A couple of weeks later, it's on and it's all done. Once that's done, that's then available to all of the clients. So that sort of thing is now much more common. People do not. I didn't even actually mention people building themselves because it's very rare that people will come to us to suggest that they would build it themselves because they realize that they should focus on the important things for them, the really, really important things for them, and not the sort of not doing our things that they can buy from a commodity point of view.
Yeah, I agree. And do you guys see a trend over the past few years of brokers having multiple trading platforms? Because 10 years ago, everyone just had MetaTrader 4 and then 5, and now we have the likes of DXTrade and MatchTrader, TradeLocker, CTrader. Is that something that you guys see? Brokers wanting to connect to multiple platforms?
Yeah, maybe I'll take a jab at that.
Yes,
given that we integrate with a lot of the trading platforms from a client experience perspective and front office, again, it depends on the maturity and the scale that the brokers are operating at. Everyone wants to. If you ask me if they have a choice and the funds that is required to, because it's not just turning on the platform, it requires enabling their sales team, enabling their distribution networks, the IB networks to also utilize that. So people who have that scale do it. We at least have maybe 30% of our customers have two, if not more, trading platforms that they provide to their end customers. But again, to answer your question of, with a lot of the brokers want to see what people think that the AI advancing so fast, it's very easy to just go and build it. Now, for me personally, I spend around 6 to 7, 8 hours on AI in some way or form, whether it's internally in the team or doing my own research or trying it myself, vibe coding. I think it's good for at this stage for things that help me and from a productivity perspective. But especially given that we are all serving in the financial industry with people's real money, with regulatory and implications, I think it is naive to think that somebody can go and build a competitor for DXTrade, or I'll build a trading platform by vibe coding or with AI or something like risk management and the bridge that Goldeye provides. It's an impossibility at this stage because it's not just about building a UI, it's also about the support and stuff like that, right? So even for trading platforms, multiple trading platforms, yes, our customers, 30% of them have, but depend on the scale and how they are marketing it out to their distribution networks as well.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, I would say it's sort of completely in agreement with that, actually. We now see requests for a whole host of different platforms where it would have been MT4 originally when we started, MT4, 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 and then gradually some more MT5s. But as requirements have got a bit more interesting, and you've got prop firms wanting to do interesting things that don't necessarily fit with the standard model, and crypto stuff which definitely doesn't fit with the standard model, and DeFi type stuff which is very different. And then when you've got prediction markets, which again are a different type of model, fundamentally the same from our point of view, but they need a different front end on it. Yes, the people are asking for different front ends for different purposes. And I think that's sort of really shaken things up a bit, that there's now people realize there is an option. There is always a big market for the standard MetaTrader platforms, and I think there always will be. But the sort of the point now we're at is that's not, you don't just take that, you don't just assume that's what I've got and I don't need to do anything else. You need to look further and to do more things for more people. And if you're locked into one single platform for absolutely everything, when a new requirement comes along, you can't, you might not be able to do it. You're completely controlled by that one vendor, which is not, as a purchaser of services, is not really a good place to be.
So I forgot to mention at the beginning that you should be able to post questions. So if you have any questions that pop up, please post them in the in Zoom, and we'll get around to answering them either as we go or at the end. And Tom, following on from your point, without like this webinar is not meant to be like a sales pitch, but but our companies have had a lot of demand for the integration of your Visual Edge product. Do you want to explain why that demand is there?
Yes, thank you. So we built our Visual Edge risk management and sort of data analytics tool years and years ago. We built it on top of MT4 because whilst MT4 had some information in the manager terminal to show you what was going on, it really couldn't dive into what was actually going on and do analytics on the trades that were happening to look for trends and things like that. And so we saw a requirement for that initially around B-booking and A-booking. Should we A-book this client? Should we B-book them? And that requires quite a lot of processing to do to say, okay, well, over time, you would have made more money if you B-booked these people in this way. Then it has sort of extended into toxic type trading, looking for fraudulent trading as well, actually. So somebody is going long and short in different parts of the world at the same time, or is there something funny going on there? Somebody has got excessive profitability. No, they might just be a really good trader, but the chances are they've probably got some latency arbitrage advantage or something like that. So it's worth investigating to see whether there's something nefarious going on. So we then obviously ported that to MT5 when that became popular. And then people kept asking us, we need this for DXTrade. We really love this platform. Please turn it on for DXTrade. And we looked at the APIs and your new types of APIs that you got together, and we put together a comprehensive integration using all of the features of that. So all of the things that you can do in Visual Edge to analyze client trading, you can now do with the DXTrade platform. And we've got a lot of people who didn't know that they didn't know the answers. So they see this and they go, oh, I didn't know that. And then suddenly it's really, really interesting to them. So that's been a really interesting ride for us, because it's been the first time we've integrated that fully outside of a MetaTrader platform. And it's been complex because there's lots of different things. DXTrade is a different platform that's got a lot more features, but it's been a really, really interesting journey. And so I'm very excited to see how that grows as we're just coming to market with that.
Yeah, we're seeing quite a lot of interest in this, and nice to hear your comment on the APIs, because this is what I believe the future of the trading platform. Most important thing is the APIs that are there. As we move into AI first agentic brokerages, and the API layer is really, really important.
Yeah, we're starting to see when we speak to prospects, some of the first questions they ask is, can we control your platform through AIs? Can we control the spreading? Can we control the liquidity? And the answer is yes, with our platform. We have a thing called a trading control API to do that. But if you go back a couple of years, nobody would have even asked the question. They would have just assumed they would have done it through GUIs. But now they want to do it they'll build something through AI, or they have an existing risk management system that they want to hook into this to tell it what to do with their liquidity. And it just makes it so much easier to then create a unified system.
Yeah, we've had some clients that have even built upon this MCP servers to be able to plug into Claude, and it's interesting seeing what you can do from a trader's perspective. But for me, the most exciting was what you could do from the broker's perspective, managing the back end and having AI help make those decisions.
Yeah,
AB, what are you looking at in AI?
Maybe I'll first add on to what you alluded, and not to sell your APIs, but I feel that DXTrade does have one of the most mature APIs that we have integrated, and it kind of adds on to the previous question as well on why brokers need trading platforms outside MT4, MT5, why there was a little bit of lack of adoption or less market share that other trading platforms had, was because of the inherent capabilities that MetaQuotes used to provide, whether it is PAM, copy trading, and how easy it used to be. It is already matured. I think with the APIs now for DXTrade, we are launching our own PAM services and copy trading services for our platform, for our customers. So it becomes that those capabilities, which were almost niche to MetaQuotes, now are available for even DXTrade. And our team's very strong kind of verdict is DXTrade does have one of the most mature APIs that is out there. In terms of AI, like I said, I breathe almost 6-7 hours a day in terms of AI. It's not just a feature. I think we are very careful of how we are adopting it to add more value rather than just add more features. I mean, of course, we have the luxury of having a lot more information as far as the customer is concerned, right from the onboarding journey to the utilizations of how their payment patterns are, etc. So we have our now AI built across different hops through the client's journey, right from onboarding. We're doing where the dropouts are, from which regions the dropouts are, deposits of how the deposit journey is, where the deposit dropouts, which PSP providers are having the biggest rejects and failures that are there, and also analytics in terms of both for the operations perspective, which sales, which IBs are providing more insight, providing more value, and also for the end customers of what kind of insights they require to provide it more, because people are now almost using AI like text, like text messages. People like to have their insights almost as part of a chat output. So we're providing a lot more chatbot kind of interfaces from a client experience perspective, right from onboarding to even analytics that they are usually used to see reports and dashboards and graphs. People like to have it in mostly a prompt-based interface now.
Yeah.
Outside all the agentic stuff that is helping to automate some of the journeys internally, but for me, more what the end customers for the brokers are going to utilize it for as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree on that one.
Sure.
I think that the idea that you can just chat to it with English language or in whatever language you're speaking is fantastic, because one thing that we've been doing is hooking up AI to the configuration component of the MatrixNet. So before, if you wanted to know how a symbol was routing into the market, you'd have a look in your GUI and you'd see how the routing was set. But what you can do now is you can say, could you tell me how, ours is called Goldie, hey Goldie, could you tell me how this symbol is going to trade in the market? And it will then respond to you exactly what your configuration is and why it's going to route somewhere in what circumstances and why it could route somewhere else. And that's just really nice, because it just makes it so much quicker than typing something in and trying to interpret the answer. So I love that aspect of AI, that it can take it's the natural language processing bit that you can ask in any way and it'll work out generally what you mean. And if it's fed from your own data, then it's not going to hallucinate and tell you that you need to take a rocket to Mars to solve this problem. It actually, you know, it's based on actual fact that you have from your own system, so which is good. Where I think AI gets a little bit tricky is when it's just having to make up the answers, because it's working out that an answer it makes up is actually a better answer than the fact, and that's where, when it's not based on your data, it can be a little bit random, and that's where people see some problems with it. But when it's on your data, it's really good.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that AI is always wants to please you and always wants to be able to answer the question, even though it might not have all of the facts. And we actually have a question that came in on the Q&A here, on a similar line, Tom. So it's asking about how do we make sure that our components do not hallucinate and lead to wrong decisions and ultimately to capital loss?
Yeah, I think I answer that is base it on your data. So have something that is actually ingesting your real data rather than just scraping stuff off the internet and basing it on general answers. So when you build an AI tool as a builder, as we are, we hook it into our actual data sources rather than just using stuff that's available on the internet. So it actually has direct access to the information. Now, that's only available to that session, because some people are worried that when they tell their AI session some private data, that's then available to everyone else on the internet. Well, it's not, because it's only available in your session that you're using with that AI, whichever AI tool that you're using. So it's not going to leak out anywhere. If you put it on a website, it will leak out, but if you're using it in an AI agent-based chat, then it's not going to. So you make sure it's got access to all of your data for that chat, and then it will base the answer on that. We also give it access to all of our user manuals, so that it knows how things work and knows how to configure things. So if you ask a question how to configure something, it will know how to tell you a correct answer, rather than trying to go down its sort of decision tree to work out the best answer, which is where it starts hallucinating, because actually a made-up answer is a better fit than the real one, which is where it gets a little bit strange.
Yeah. I think spot on in terms of data. I think data is definitely the source of it, but my experience also is to put in the right guardrails and also human in the loop wherever there is there are critical transactions, especially when there's payment related transactions, or if it is activities which does have some form of implication, legal or financial. I think it is best to have the right rules and training done for the AI models that you're using. And even in terms of analytics, I feel sometimes it just gets carried away. Almost all models like to give a very optimistic, positive answer. It never is wrong. It never feels that it has given any wrong information. So it is. I wish there was a very easy answer to it. You have to train it with your own data. You have to put in the guardrails, and wherever there is financial implications or legal implications, you should have a human in the loop, just to ensure that you don't have any liabilities or exposures.
Yeah. And also going back to what we were speaking about earlier, in terms of a broker choosing a modular setup versus a all-in-one solution. I think AI really comes into itself here, because being able to connect to all of these different places and bring out different data from one place into one place is really valuable. And it can also, you can give AI all of that information to make decisions. And like Tom mentioned, through AI or through those APIs, you can configure the bridge. So you could see, you can see patterns coming through the CRM or through the trading platform and make instant changes directly on the bridge by connecting it together. So I think it's really really useful to have that as this kind of this layer, and those brokers that will adopt AI to manage that will have a lot more flexibility, and they will find that they they'll have a lot more options in how they work and how they run.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, earlier on, I think Tom, you mentioned choosing one vendor for everything didn't even kind of come into your mind, and that it of course brokers should be modular, and also brokers shouldn't go out and try and build everything themselves. So when you have brokers that come to you that have made those decisions already, so they're already using some monolithic platform, and they want to move to a more modular architecture, but they're kind of locked in with an existing vendor, like what do you guys, both of you guys, recommend they do first?
So if they're just using one platform, and a brokerage is normally running at about 110% capacity all the time, so they're normally quite stressed organizations. So to be able to go in and say, okay, change a whole load of things, and at the weekend turn it on, if you're at FX, you turn it on to this new platform, is really quite a scary option that most people will not do. So the way we like to do it is to because of what if they were using a MetaTrader as their single platform for everything, because of the API system that it has in there, it's very easy to add our components to it. So we start augmenting it rather than initially 100% replacing it. So initially you take some liquidity and you feed liquidity from our MatrixNet into your single platform, that you then switch over to from what you've got at the moment. So you start switching over, so individual groups of clients, and then gradually all of them will start using this external liquidity source. Then you've got a platform that's delivering liquidity into your single platform. And at that point, you can then add, of course, another trading platform, because you've got all your liquidity coming from one place, coming from MatrixNet in this example. So you can gradually add more bits and gradually extend what you've got, rather than a whole replacement, which never really works. Wholesale replacements are very rare, and they generally, it's just too complex, and the risk associated with it in a brokerage is just too high. So they don't like to do that. So we will always come up with an approach where it's a gradual augment that could then end up being a replacement. But normally you'd find that the original monolithic platform will still be there, because there is still a need for that from quite a load of clients. But it sits then in parallel with other platforms like DXTrade, and that works nicely.
Yeah, and AB, I would imagine it's much more difficult from the CRM side, right? Yeah. Like how do you normally recommend brokers move from one CRM or one system to yours?
See, I think again, it depends on the scale of the brokerage. If a broker is running, CRM is the hardest thing to migrate. I think one of the hardest things, because it has a lot, and depending on how long they've been running, you should solve the problem that you're facing, rather than create more problems, more moving parts, more problems. So I very strongly recommend most of our customers who are migrating, depending on different, CRM is a general term that the industry uses, but most of it has different modules. It has onboarding, it has IB management, it has maybe just the sales management aspect of it. So the way we do it is, we've like recently we migrated a really large broker. They have around 12,000 IBs that were there. So initially they were thinking of even migrating the entire CRM, and we were very, as much as it is a good opportunity from a revenue perspective, but I think it's a very mammoth of a task to undertake. So we first just migrated their IB management, which was around 10,000 IBs, around $200 odd million business. Which itself took around 6 months, because you cannot just flip a switch and turn it on to another system. You gradually migrate it region by region to the new platform. Once that was conducted, we started providing all the other additional services that their sales required. Once they were comfortable with that is when we started the actual client migration as well. Because if you try to do a big bang approach at scale, it almost more often than not tends to have issues and delays beyond what you have anticipated. But for smaller brokers, lift and shift is relatively easy as long as it is planned and executed well. Because today, in today's day and age, if you ask me with AI, we are using AI for most of the migration, mapping the tables, mapping and doing creating migration scripts and stuff is not really that difficult. But from our perspective, from our product perspective, it's mostly the client experience and how you transition and wean them off of some of the old, even if it's bad habits that they have already have. They like certain things, so you give them two options, and how you get them to eventually move. Again, it all depends on what phase of growth the broker is on, what scale of business the broker is on, and what model they're migrating as well.
So we have an interesting question that's come through from Wasim. It's kind of connected to what we've just been discussing. So he says that his current CRM lacks MAM/PAM support, and how can he integrate a third-party provider? I know actually both of your companies have MAM/PAM. So, like, what's your answer? What would your answer to Wasim be, where he has an existing CRM, but he does not have the functionality that you have?
So if I start on this one, the MAM/PAM we have is just for MT4 and MT5, I'm afraid. We don't have one that is working in other platforms on that. And the reason for that is it's totally tied into very, very bespoke APIs. And when you build a MAM/PAM solution for a platform that never had the concept of MAM/PAM when it was designed, it's really, really quite difficult, because you've got so many different scenarios and edge cases you've got to deal with, because there's so many different things that can go on, and you've got to manage everything working together between one master account and all the different sub accounts. And some people want the subs to trade, some people allow the subs to close out, some people want the subs to trade in the market, some people want the master to trade in the market. So there's so many different things. Migrating from someone else's PAM to our PAM, generally the way you do it in practice is, whilst you could extract all the data from the existing one, try and upload it into a copy, the better way to do it in practice is actually to set up a structure that's the same as the existing one, and then get the masters to open new accounts. So you can mirror the existing account structure, the existing orders that you've got there, but all of the history, it's probably not worth the bother of trying to import all of that. So it is quite a difficult one to do, because there isn't really a standardization in it. I know there are people who have cross-platform MAM and PAM type scenarios that are maybe better to answer this question.
Yeah, I think I'll take that one as well,
Do.
Tom. So for us, MAM/PAM is a modular solution that we offer across all trading platforms now. If it's MT4, MT5, it's Manager API, DXTrade, it's via their API, and any other trading platform as well. So it is most of the bigger brokers that we have, they have their own CRMs like Salesforce, if they're at sales, if they're at scale, or whatever they inherently have. But yeah, so we do have an option where they can just have a standalone PAM/MAM, and even the IB system that supports the scale of the PAM/MAM to be integrated. So it's usually using Manager API. The users just log in with their trading platform credentials rather than onboarding on our platform. So yeah, would be happy to give more details, Wasim.
Yeah, thank you for those good answers. There's a question that came in. How do we manage reliability and failure across multiple integrated systems? Which is quite a good question. I'll start with ourselves. Obviously, DXTrade is the trading platform that we see that sits in the middle. We have APIs that the CRM providers are connecting into, and we connect to fixed sessions for bridge providers like Goldeye. So firstly, we recommend that the platform is running in the cloud, because it's just so much more reliable. AWS does a lot better job at maintaining system uptime than anyone else could do, if they had servers in their office. So we recommend recommend this. We can also set up backup APIs. So if one goes down, we can move over to the other. We're obviously monitoring that 24/7. And if needed, we can also set the platform up to run in different zones, different regions, different data centers. So there's lots of different options there. But it really does depend, from our perspective, it really does depend on the broker, the size of the broker, and how much risk they want to manage there, because the more and more options you add, the more expensive it can become. But even the most basic platform running in AWS, it rarely has any problems at all. We're talking like 99.999% uptime. Tom, Aby, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think running in the cloud is becoming the sort of default solution now, because the uptime is just incredibly high. We'll always deploy a solution where we have primary and a DR in case of failure, but yeah, it is unbelievably reliable. I love that scenario, and it's just so, you know, we had a client. In fact, they're using a DXTrade front end, and they said, hey, you know, how quickly could you get us up and running if we wanted to be up and running as soon as possible? And we said, well, it's a matter of hours really to get the tech stack in place now. It's really quick, whereas it used to be months. You'd have to wait for servers to be physically delivered, a person to go to site, actually go into the data center, install it, wire it up, install the operating system. I mean, now an AWS server can be spun up in about 5 minutes, and then you can do all the network connectivity in the same sort of time frame. So it's amazingly good like that.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, infrastructure reliability is a lot stronger now with cloud for sure. But for us, integration is our core business. We are integrated with virtually every touch point and third party that the broker is interacting with, whether it is trading platforms or eKYC providers, PSP providers, etc. I always tell my team that, you know, don't take integration as a project. It is part of your part of the product, because the stability and the reliability of the integration is what determines the quality of the service that the broker will provide. So yes, of course, the cloud provides a much stronger infrastructure resilience in terms of availability and performance, and even, you know, scale as you grow kind of option now. But also having especially I mean, DXTrade is obviously one of the more mature APIs, but we work with, let's say, PSP providers, for example. The kind of immaturity that is there in that space in terms of APIs that are available, it is very difficult for somebody to just assume that it is going to be a standard that Stripe or PayPal follows, for example. So it's, even if you're Amazon and Azure or whatever you're using for cloud might be very stable, but if that integration is not done from almost productized and made idiot proof and has the right bells and checks and balances inside, we have faced incredible amount of problems, especially when the maturity of the third party vendor has not been up to mark. And in this industry in particular, and I would really silo PSP providers, especially the wannabe ones, it has been. So integration reliability for me, don't look at it as a project. It has to be productized to make sure that your business and services to the clients are not impacted.
Yeah. One of the, I think that question was getting at was, if I've now got, instead of having one provider, I've got 3 providers, is the problem going to get thrown between all of them? I.e., they all blame each other and I never get my solution solved, which is what people always worry about. You know, if your broadband's not working, you ring up your broadband supplier and they go, well, it's not my fault. And you go, well, I'm the customer and it's not working. What am I supposed to do? So that's a really important scenario that we see, and we will always take the role of being the mediator in that one. So if we would get the first call, then we will call all of the different participants and we will liaise with everything that's going on, even if it's nothing to do with our bit of the stack that's got the issue or the question. So someone needs to sort of take that part, and I think it's really important to, and that's something where they sort of the original vendors probably wouldn't have done that. They would have said, well, that's not in our component, therefore we can't really help anymore. Whereas we will run it through all the way and say, okay, this is where we think the problem is, this is who you need to talk to. We can talk to them for you, we can put you in contact with them, we can be on a group chat to help solve the issue, because the answer really is, how do we get this solved as quickly as possible and then learn for it, so that this complex set of connections are not going to have you're not going to have this issue or this question again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think observability is the a key word. You're right, Tom, in terms of how quickly we can provide the insights for them to make the right decisions. So one of the capabilities that we are adding, and AI is really helping in that context for sure, because it's able to sift
Mm.
out anomalies a lot faster than what our human support staff used to
Yes.
do. Sifting through all the thousands of lines of logs that was generated every minute. So now the anomaly detection capability really at least gives the insights to take the right actions. I would say that would
Yeah.
significantly change over the next six to 12 months as well.
Yeah. I've got actually a question here which I'd like to answer from Alexander, if that's okay, which is, are there any currently any broadly available solutions for client categorization based on their trading activity? How do brokers distinguish toxic flow from the uniformed flow apart from markouts? Well, that's one of the things that Visual Edge is particularly strong in. It has a lot of different patterns that it's pre-programmed to look for. There's about 10 different sorts, which through experience and through working with risk managers on desks, we have learned are things that are not positive to a brokerage. And so we look for those patterns all the time. And then you will have a dashboard as all the trades come in real time, and it will flag up if it meets one of these patterns that you've decided you want to look for. And then you can go and investigate as to what's actually going on behind the scenes. So you don't have to keep sort of thinking of what's going on. Is there something going on wrong here? It will automatically find these things for you. And these are sort of patterns that we're adding all the time. This is then being extended using AI. So rather than looking for patterns, you can look for somebody seems to be making more money than I was expecting them to be, therefore look for an underlying pattern that might be causing this. So it sort of reverses it slightly to make it a bit easier to find out what could be going on. And again, it could just be professional trading that is doing well. But if it's happening a lot from retail traders, you probably want to investigate further.
yeah. Good. Okay, so moving on, I wanted to talk about the future. So, looking back 5 years ago, things have changed dramatically, I would say. But where do you guys see the broker's technology in, what is it doing in 5 years' time? Like what changes would we have seen?
So if I start quickly on that one, because I know we are running out of time a little bit. I think there will be an awful lot more blockchain stroke DeFi based type systems, because if you look at the speed that the crypto markets are taking over traditional markets, Hyperliquid listing all of the CME, CVOT type products, and then getting successful markets 24/7 has happened so quickly. And the ability to be able to list a product in real time and it appears straight away. You invent a new product and it's available trading straight away. I think that's extraordinary, and that sort of thing, that ability to be able to use that advanced type technology will come across all the markets. So you will see that going down and forcing the traditional markets to adopt more sort of technology like this, because otherwise they're going to get left behind.
Do
That's my take.
you see a big move from CFD to perpetuals? Like a
The problem with perpetuals is the financing, and that's always going to be confusing. I don't think, unless you're actually trading based on the financing arbitrage and things like that, you probably don't want to have to worry about financing for most traders every few hours or every hour. So having daily financing is just much more straightforward, it's much easier. So I think actually we're seeing probably CFDs offered as CFDs, but the broker might be covering them with perps and working out the financing themselves. I think is probably a sensible approach for core crypto bros. Then perps is absolutely the way to go, because they use that underlying financing as a benefit to trade and make money on.
Yeah, and what be interesting to hear both of your views on tokenization.
Abby, do you want to go?
No, I'll probably answer more on the tech side first.
Okay.
I feel where the brokers are going to be in next 5 years. I think the AI adoption is going to determine who is going to be ahead in the race, because that would determine how swiftly they would be able to release new capabilities, how swiftly they'll be able to differentiate, because idea is almost a commodity now, and execution is going to be a lot more easier for everyone, is democratized with AI. So now it depends on how well they execute, with whom they partner to execute, because the pace at which AI is changing, I think it will have a paradigm shift in the customer's expectation and behavior as well. I was just listening to, I think it was Darius from Anthropic who was saying, no, the guy who created Claude, he says that in the next 5 years, AI will be creating software will be as easy as texting. You wouldn't have to teach anybody how to text. I think that power in the hands of brokers will enable them to release new capabilities, new features, new integrations a lot faster than what we are even able to imagine at this stage in 5 years. So I feel it'll be an interesting time for us to see of who wins that race or how they compete after that.
Yeah, I have to agree. So with AI, there's a few ways you can look at it. Like from a platform perspective, we could, we can build AI tools that sit inside our front ends. But and this is useful, and I believe that this will be a pattern for 1 or 2 years. But really looking in the long term, AI kind of removes the need for front end, and I believe that in 5 years' time, we will not have apps on our phones. We will have some AI tool, and it will show us what we want to see, and it will we'll tell it the type of trades that we want to trade with and who our counterparties are. And that will be how traders will interact and how they will trade. And the back end will have to be there to be able to accept it. I think AI is very good at building the front end side of things, but the back end, where you need something that is reliable and secure and known to work, this is much harder to replicate with AI at the moment. Maybe in 10 years' time, it would be easy to do as well. And that's why I believe some of our competitors in the trading platform space have now started to kind of take the whole vertical. So rather than just looking at trading platforms, you see some of the platform providers building bridges, aggregators, smart order routers. I believe that they do this because in the future, traders are not going to come to brokers for MetaTrader or for certain platforms. They're going to want to come to brokers for the ability to use their AI agents for other services rather than the front end. And if a trader wants a particular front end or a particular look and feel way of using it, their trading platform, they'll just ask AI to make them a front end that they want. Like this will just disappear. And I think 5 years, this is definitely going to happen. In 10 years' time, I think brokers will likely be able to do even more on the back end, which is very interesting.
I think if somebody wants to learn about AI building applications, I went to we're AWS partners, and I went to an AWS partner conference, and it was mostly about AI, actually. It wasn't supposed to be, but it's mostly about AI. But what they're doing with their AI code building system is quite incredible. And what it does is it's very clever. It front loads getting the business knowledge out of the experts like us, rather than someone who doesn't really know much about coding and knows a bit about the business and tries to put some prompts in and get it to build something in which it doesn't really have enough information to build the right thing. It spends a lot of time really refining the business requirements, talking to experts, real human experts, and then it takes that in a codified formula that can then build the AWS, specific to AWS, can then build the AWS services behind it. But because it's taken all of this time to get the business expertise and the business rules, and it's really left nothing uncovered to be able, from the business point of view, as to what you need it to do. It is very reliable at producing something that actually does what you want it to do, even at performance. So I think that's really clever. So it's not dumbing down the system. It's using all of our years of business expertise and understanding about how systems fit together and what it needs to do to build the right system. I think that's a really good approach for building things from AI. Just chucking in stuff and vibe coding is a bit random and often wrong and dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're coming to the end. If there's some more questions that anyone wants to ask, we're happy to answer. Um, Tom or AB, did you have anything else that you wanted to mention on this?
Just leverage our expertise and our development capability to build loads of stuff rather than have to worry about building it yourself, because you've got all of our developers, all of AB's developers available but from what we build. So suddenly you've got access to so much more than you would have had if you're trying to do it yourself. And it's much more, if you've not from a development background, it looks really straightforward from the outside, but to make something reliable is quite hard. And that's where we can help.
I'd also add to that how important it is to come and speak to us, because we all know each other. So multiple times a week, we're talking to some clients, and we understand that they're missing some certain functionality or piece of the puzzle, and we'll introduce them through to different bridge providers or to the CRM providers, and it's the same this way. So yeah, coming to speak to us, we can obviously point you into the right direction, the right people at each company. I think it's very valuable.
Yeah. I would just add on to say that, focus on your strengths and manage your weaknesses. I think if your strength is business, you should definitely leverage AI wherever you have to, whether it is creating presentations, having your presentations or chats prepared, email responses prepared. But as far as product is concerned, it's not just about building the product. It's about managing, maintaining, supporting. If you say a trading platform, or even if it's a bridge provider, it's not about just the software. If something goes down, who's going to take care of it, right? Because if something is completely written by AI, on what basis, and who's going to go and manage it? So it does require an ecosystem and a educated bunch of people who do that for a living. So productization is a different game. AI helps to expedite that, but it doesn't replace the product companies directly, is my personal perspective on this.
Very good. And just to end, there's one question, Tom, that's come in from Alexander. Looks like one for you.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Alexander, for posting your question. So what are the most important factors to consider and work with when coming to making rules decisions for routing flow A-book versus B-book? Well, I guess the really high level one is if the trader is very professional and they're making lots of money, then you would probably want to A-book them. If they're not, then you would want to be with them. So if they're immature, but actually it's much more complex than that. If the volatility is high or is reasonable but can spike to very high, as in like you get in the crypto markets, then you would definitely want to A-book that, because you don't want to take on the other side, and you are so incredibly exposed to doing that one. With Visual Edge, you can say, go back 6 months, go back 1 month, go back 2 years, and analyze this particular client or this group with these particular instruments, and graphically show me how much money I would have made if I'd A-booked it and how much money I would have made if I'd B-booked it. So it can't show the future, but it can show you in the past what would have happened. And if you then look at that and you go, okay, I've worked out, I think that for this particular client set, they're really good at gold trading, but they're rubbish at trading majors in FX. So I'm going to B-book their FX stuff, and in their gold stuff, I'm going to A-book it. I'm going to find the right providers to that one. And then you configure the MatrixNet to say, okay, for these particular clients, for these particular instruments, I'm going to B-book either all of it or some of it, and then you can then do your analysis afterwards. So use the tools to be able to analyze that, and that's built into the platform.
Very good. Great. I think that brings us just up on time. So I'd like to thank Tom, thank AB, thank everyone that's joined. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can find us all on LinkedIn. And yeah, have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
Bye.
Bye-bye.